So when I heard about this pipeline, when I read about it and spoke with other people, I was really struck by the aspect that a Canadian company could come into the United States and use laws to threaten eminent domain against private property owners. So I actually a year earlier had done a small pipeline only on my front lawn. I wanted to bring attention to the Keystone Pipeline issue, and I had an oil spill. It was tar sand, so it was a different material that was proposed to be transported. So I had an oil spill, and I had facts about the tar sands and about climate change. And then I had at the end a place where people could pick up these handmade postcards that my children and their cousins had done over one Easter weekend. A couple hundred of these beautiful handmade, hand-drawn postcards. And they were even stamped. And people could take them and write a message to President Obama to oppose the Keystone Pipeline. So in the end, we had maybe 200 people stop by that little front lawn installation. There was no advertisement. It was just something people stumbled on as they walked down our street. We have several schools in the neighborhood. And so people were able to take information. I also had not only the postcards, but little sheets, tiny sheets with the address of the White House and the email address and the phone number, so people could write a postcard, or the more tech-savvy media, social media type people could use their resources and their electronics to get the message to the president to oppose the Keystone Pipeline. So what I did was build off of that. When this new threat came to our own region, I decided to just biggie it up. And so I asked my neighbors, hey, how would you feel if I condemned your house and ran a life-sized pipeline through your lawn? And in order to do that, before I asked them, the kids and I baked some cookies. So we came over with that proposal to their homes and a plate of really good cookies. So I asked the two people I knew would say yes first, because they were close friends of mine who live on the block. We have a kind of a shared community backyard. And they both said yes, and I knew then that I could get the pipeline from my yard down to these two houses. And so then I worked on the next people on the other side, and they said yes, and we just worked it out from there. And the more people piled on, the easier it was for people to say yes, until we had the entire block of 6 homes. And then on the end, we had a massive tree that's on the property of someone around the corner. And that allowed us to hang an 18-foot banner kind of welcoming people into the pipeline installation. From getting people's agreement, it was then a matter of designing something that would physically work in the space, and then giving the story. And since story and narrative is where I'm most interested, I worked very hard on how would I tell a story over a block-long space that doesn't either dwarf the pipeline or not explain it enough. And what was interesting about it was that it took us several days to actually install the pipeline, because it was very difficult to do it affordably, and so it wasn't something people would maybe necessarily take pieces of. And so it was this unfolding over a week. And because it took a week, people were very confused at first. One of the things that happened was the signs, the condemned signs were some of the first things to go up. And so people thought that the whole neighborhood was being condemned by the University of Oregon, which has condemned properties in the past and used the power of eminent domain. So there was this new aspect to the whole project that was very compelling, which was people actually thought, they actually experienced what it would be like to feel that part of their neighborhood was being annexed. Part of it was being condemned. And that went on for 2 or 3 days before I was able to do the next part and put the explanatory signs up. I think it was actually useful for us not to be able to work fast enough. It was during the school week, and so we were working, and people weren't as available to help out during the day. And so it took us those 3 days to get all the explanatory signs up, and it actually helped build the buzz and the discomfort in the community about what was happening. The other thing that really helped was I had orange tape. I did this pretty early, and I wrapped all the trees with orange tape, which in itself was an unexpectedly dramatic visual that I think was really, really helpful. People are used to seeing that. They know that when you wrap a tree, it usually means it's coming down. And people would come up to me on the street as I was building the other pieces of the installation and say, "Are these trees getting cut?" And I was able to use that discomfort to say, well, these trees aren't getting cut, at least not now, but there are going to be thousands, tens of thousands of trees cut in your state for a project that is not good for Oregon in the first place.